Hello, my name is Virginia. I'm UX designer at Plain Concepts, and I'm here today to talk a bit about behavioral design. Let's start with the definition of behavioral design. Well, behavioral design is to understand how people make decisions and how to apply persuasion techniques to influence on these decisions. Always, of course, respecting the freedom of individuals when they are making their decisions. It's not to modify behavior, but to help users to perform the action they want to do in the end. We make most of our decisions by instinct rather than rationally because we are creatures of habits. And of course, changing behavior is very difficult to this automatic nature. And more technically speaking, behavioral was born as a discipline focused on developing the design process of products and services through the implementation of some behavioral sciences. These are four: cognitive psychology, anthropology, sociology, and behavioral economics. What are the objectives of behavioral design? They are support action, to make better decisions, to create healthy habits, and match customer needs with business objectives in a healthy manner for both sides. And why? Well, because our brains have a very hard time when thinking, because we are very hesitant, we're made of emotions, because our mind takes shortcuts to avoid thinking as well. And what's really happening? Well, we're overwhelmed with information, especially in the digital sector. Our head can cope with everything, and that's why our brain filters information to make quick and effortless decisions. Our objective as designers is to know these filters and mental processes in order to design better communications and better experiences. When making decisions, we're always very rational. We don't always act in the most logical way with respect to the information that we normally have. If we were making decisions rationally, we will save more money, we will have less things in our house that we don't use, and we will probably be healthier as well. So therefore, there are other factors influencing our behavior. Some of these factors are context and uncertainty. The power of context is that it skews our perceptions. So, for example, if we think about our two friends that just had an argument, what is the first thing that we would do? Well, probably the first thing is to make them stop fighting, but we would ask what happened, what was the problem, why did they start arguing? And basically, we always need context to understand what's going on, what happened, and just to make a valuable judgment. We need that to make sense of the world around us, because uncertain situations generate rejection. And if we focus on a digital product, if there is something that we don't know and it generates uncertainty, it will make the user to abandon the product. The context we have guide our perception, so we needed to understand the world around us. We're gonna see some processes that are going to show us how some nuances change our context and our decisions. The first one we're seeing is the anchoring bias. Generally, this means that the first thing we see acts as the reference point or the anchor from which we perceive the following information. We rely too heavily basically on the first piece of information that we're given about that topic. A good example of this is the presentation that Steve Jobs did presenting the iPad 1. Because this was a totally new product and there weren't any references on the market. Basically, he asked the public how much they think it should cost, and then he explained that according to his experts, people would pay just over $1,000. So he continues explaining about the product, the price, and so on. And then he, in the end, said that because they wanted to get to more people and they wanted more people to have access to the product, then the price would be $499. And suddenly, this number came from above, breaking the $999 price. So obviously, there was an ovation in the public, and this price wasn't perceived as just like a single random price. It was perceived as the half of the price that he showed before. So for the public, it was a bargain. Another process is the compromise effect or the middle option effect. What this proves is that a consumer is more likely to choose always the option in the middle when they're given different options. A good example of this is what Starbucks did. They had 3 sizes of drinks in their menu, and they modified the perceived value because they had short, tall, and grande. And then they got rid of the short, they moved the tall to the shorter version, they brought the grande to the middle option, and they added a bigger size and more expensive size. So this is what some companies often do. They take advantage of this effect to increase the sales by adding a more expensive model. The importance of uncertainty. This is the biggest problem in consumer psychology because it's the biggest killer of the sales. It happens very frequently and in many areas, but especially when we are facing a purchase or a subscription. If we eliminate uncertainty, users will have the opportunity to know the real offer there, and we won't go to a competitor, and of course it will increase the sales and the conversion. But how can we do that? One way of doing this is with anticipation of emotions and low commitment. Netflix does that very well. They are the king of behavioral design. They start before even you subscribe or you want to subscribe, they already tell you that you can cancel the subscription anytime. So there's a very low effect of commitment. Also, with two biases, the illusion of control and the paradox of choice, when you start signing up to their subscription, they give you several options. So then you as a user, you might think, oh, that's perfect. I have control, I can choose the plan it fits my needs. But if you realize there is one option already selected, that obviously is the most expensive one, but in your brain is already sticking there as the best option. And if you continue with the steps of the subscription, then it continues telling you, okay, you can cancel easily online anytime that you want. Another way of eliminating the uncertainty is using the status quo bias. Normally, we want things to stay the way they are, and so we don't have to make a decision. Or we rely on a decision that we already made in the past. This is called a shortcut. Useberry, this is a product that is used for user testing, and their price plan, it's already having a pre-selected option in here. And this is because it's the option that people normally choose, the recommended one. Obviously, you have to do this ethically. It has to be true that is the most common option. When a user sees that, a cognitive process occurs and the user thinks, okay, if a lot of people is choosing this option, then it's very likely to be the best one. Another way is by social influence bias. Companies normally show how many users they have or how many trusted brands use the product already. And of course with testimonials and reviews. So anything that shows how many people uses the product or that made the decision, that reduces uncertainty and therefore increase conversion. In an environment of uncertainty, we would normally choose the same path that other people took as well. But what value does it bring that we don't already do in UX? Behavioral design provides knowledge about irrational processes that happen in the mind in the decision-making process. So if we only take into consideration a good UX, why so many people abandon a shopping cart in a funnel? The user sees everything correctly, everything seems clear, and they still abandon the basket. If we have a perfect user experience, why is this happening? So in this last moment, in this last mind, when that decision is happening, is where we have a lot of biases, and we as designers can anticipate that and can manage to lead the user to a path that we want them to follow. How can these two be joined together, UX and behavioral design? They can come together very well in the design process, since the behavioral process is very similar. In the design thinking in UX, we have 5 stages. The emphasized one: definition, ideation, creation and prototyping, and testing. If we add behavioral in here, in the first one in emphasize, it isn't just looking at the objectives, the needs or pains of the user, but also we need to see what's the missing information in there, what insecurities might arise. We need to understand all of the cognitive barriers. During the creation of the product, it's taking also mental biases into consideration. And during testing, it's applying qualitative testing. So it's not just testing if the user is performing the action, it's also seeing if all of the doubts were resolved. So for example, we can ask the user, okay, what do you think what will happen here, or if you click this button? then we have to really listen to the user to see what they have to say. But is this just a trend? It seems so, but it's a trend that's here to stay because it improves the way that we make decisions, and since what it does is to improve business and help people, it's very interesting, it's easy to apply, and with very small changes, the impact can be brutal. There are many large companies that already use this, and when this happens, other companies also want to use the same. So this is the same as happened with the UX and with the use of design systems. And to conclude, we should consider that the mind is always trying to reduce effort using mental shortcuts. And with behavioral design, those mental shortcuts are discovered, and we analyze which ones should be used in the design process and which ones should be eliminated. We have to experiment to see if what we're doing really works, and also failed interventions are our goal. So all of the failed experiments are our goal because they're telling us what we shouldn't be doing. Well, this is it. Thank you so much, and I hope to enjoy this time, and I hope you use it in the future.